The hardest moment of my life was during my first manic episode. I was working as a litigation attorney, my first and second psychiatric hospitalization. The content of my delusions had something to do with the sort of trying to get pregnant as well. I thought I was Jesus. I thought I was the Son of God. Kind of every day looking forward to my wife coming to visit, and she basically sat there and listened to me, rant. I looked up and I saw the second hand come to a stop. My mind was just moving so fast, I was faster than the clock. And what that meant to me was that I was going to be on that psych ward in that condition forever. And I just screamed. Later that day, Caroline showed up and has showed up pretty much every day since. Delusion aside, after I had been diagnosed, basically after the second manic episode, it was like, no, this is really bipolar. There's a genetic component to many, mental illnesses, including bipolar. And I was concerned, like, what is that risk going to be for our children? For a little while, was kind of changing my mind. Like, maybe I shouldn't have children, that I am going to pass along these bad genes, right? And they're going to suffer. Ultimately, it took me, and I don't know if it's my therapist or my wife, to reframe the question. So you're thinking you're not going to have children because they might have a mental illness. So ask yourself, Fred, would you rather not be alive? I want to be alive, right? And my kids, they may struggle, right? They may have depression, but we're going to know how to get through it. Right? The process of kind of being okay with being bipolar, my genes are good enough, right, for my kids, right? And again, they're going to have so much support, and we're so attentive. I have no doubt they're going to be happy more often than not, and you can give that to your kids.
Because the kids do pick up on stuff, we've had to talk to them a lot about, what this is and what this means, and that it's okay to be sad sometimes, and it's okay to take medicine to try and stay healthy, and all of that stuff has been just something they grew up with because they've known it their whole lives. And they're really super accepting of it.
And just being a huge motivator to try to stay healthy for her and for the kids. So, yeah, I couldn't do it without her. Having those experiences, both me personally having those experiences and having a partner who has, been there for me while I've been having those experiences. Together, we've kind of had both perspectives and, know what to look for, know what works, know what doesn't work, and are just really attuned to the kids. The fact that they're predisposed for mental illness, you might look at as a sort of, it's a negative, right? But the fact that they're growing up with somebody who is openly struggling, talking about having a mental illness, whether or not they end up having anxiety or depression or bipolar or whatever it is, they're going to be so much better able to understand, the huge percentage of the population that does deal with mental health issues. My daughter, she doesn't love me any less when I'm feeling depressed, and she's always going to carry that, to whomever she meets, right? So that's just an advantage of having, parents with mental illness.
When you're in the depths of mental illness as a patient or a family member, you feel like it's never going to get better, and nothing is ever going to be the way it used to be. And that second part is probably true. Nothing probably ever will be the way it used to be, but it will get better, and it does. And you can still have a good life and have all the things that you wanted out of your life, even with this illness.
Maybe you, as I did, have to switch a career, or you're on all sorts of medications, and you got to set a routine. You got to do all sorts of things to take care of yourself. But as long as you do those things, it doesn't have to be. It's not a dead end, right? There's a way through, and it may not be what you expected from life. But in my case, it's been better. right? I mean, I've been able, I have fulfilling work. I teach, classes about mental health law from the perspective of someone, with mental illness, and the students see that. And
I will say the students relate to him so well because they've never had a professor who tells them that they have mental illness before. And they all want to come up to him after class and share their stories about their struggles. And it's so helpful to the students to have somebody who's a role model, who can show that it's doable, that you can do this.
A trial attorney was not consistent with my mental health, right? So I changed careers and am now a professor at a law school, the University of Alabama, where I've been for 13 years. And, now I have tenure, and so I've been successful and waited. This is something that, I think people deal with a lot of sort of stigma and shame. And I didn't tell anybody at the law school, even colleagues at my level, friends, that I was bipolar until after I got tenure. It wouldn't have happened 6 years ago, 10 years ago, yeah. And even then, I wouldn't have done it, I think, unless I hadn't started doing sort of advocacy on suicide prevention.